Thank you very much. I've listened to all the incredibly good words about the ambassador that we've heard today, and I certainly would like to associate myself with all. He is an incredible man. I've known him for many years. I could tell you some stories about him that he wouldn't want me to tell you. And I think his greatest virtue is that he spent some time in one of our minor universities in England called Oxford, and therefore is kind of almost an honorary Brit. I think one of the things that Ron Dermer said that to me that I will always remember, and I think it's something we should all bear in mind, all think about, and it encapsulates the virtues of the Israel Defence Force. He and I were both speaking at an event, I think it was in New York, and he said that the IDF should not be condemned, they should receive a Nobel Peace Prize. And I think he's absolutely right. You just have to look at everything the IDF does to save lives, even of their enemies. And also all of the humanitarian efforts, putting their own soldiers' lives at risk that the IDF involve themselves in. There's no other defence force like it anywhere in the world for its humanity as well as its fighting effectiveness. So I think that I would like to pay tribute to Ambassador Dermer, not just on that basis, but for all of the incredible work he does here in the United States on behalf of the State of Israel. The IDF owes its origins, the origins of the IDF are very closely interconnected with the Balfour Declaration. This is not just the 100th anniversary of the Balfour Declaration, it's also the 100th anniversary of the formation of the Jewish Legion. The Jewish Legion was part of the British Army, and it was the first formed Jewish fighting force since the Maccabees in over 2,000 years. Including among the Jewish Legion were British soldiers, all in the British Army, British soldiers, Palestinian Jews, and Jews from the United States of America, including a gentleman by the name of Private Green, who I believe went on to become the first Prime Minister of the State of Israel. So that is the origins of the IDF. Of course, as we all know, the IDF was interweaved with British forces, American forces, and so on through the Second World War up until the present day. And there's a huge amount that we in the British Army and the American Army and the IDF have in common. I think one thing that I'd like to say in conclusion is that the State of Israel, or that the Balfour Declaration, was born in conflict during the First World War. 1917 had been a particularly bloody year for the British Army and the French Army, and I'm happy to say the German Army as well, during the First World War. And my own great uncle was killed at the Battle of Passchendaele, which ended in November 1917. So that declaration was born in conflict. Today, we're also in conflict. We're fighting another world war. Many of our political leaders won't admit it, but it's a fact, and it's a fact that's known by our enemies. We're fighting that war in Europe, you're fighting it here in the United States, and Israel is fighting it in the Middle East, and in some cases we're overlapping. I think we need to recognise that we're fighting the same war. We need also to support each other far more fully, and here I'm not levelling any criticism at the United States. We've heard today a huge range of measures that the United States have taken to support the State of Israel. My criticism is more for my own country and for Europe, who are yet to catch up with the reality of what's happening in the world, not just the war we're fighting, but also the changes that we've been hearing about recently in the Middle East. And the sort of alignment and the coordination that's taking place between a number of different Middle Eastern countries and Israel. Europe, as I say, is not yet caught up on that. And what we're still doing, we're still talking about outdated notions like the two-state solution. Of course, that can never happen. We've known now, I think, for many years that could never happen, but it's increasingly a reality. How could we have a two-state solution when the other side doesn't want it? The other side doesn't want their own state. They want the annihilation of the Jewish state. Not only that, but how could we possibly see a sovereign state created in the West Bank? We couldn't see it. The IDF could never leave the West Bank. The security problems it would present for the State of Israel and for Jordan, as well as for the world, which when the IDF withdrew, allowing the creation of another ISIS state on Israel's back door mean it's inconceivable. We should recognise that. We should not try and force Israel down that path. Instead, we should support them as an ally in the war on terror. Thank you very much indeed for listening.